Zakręcimy?
I don't have my shoes out. My best friend was like, finally, like, you want to talk to lunch, you want to go on dinner, and it's like, actually, like, no.
Zakręcimy?
I don't have my shoes out. My best friend was like, finally, like, you want to talk to lunch, you want to go on dinner, and it's like, actually, like, no.
Forgive us for not being prepared with the champagne and champagne glasses. We will proceed with the toast later, but first I will say grace. So in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Bless us, O Lord, for these thy gifts, which we are about to receive from thy bounty through Christ our Lord. Amen. And thank you for being able to share this wonderful occasion in my parents' honor with all these gracious gifts who have come to celebrate with us tonight. Thank you. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
No Halloween, giving thanks to Christmas joy you bring. But what it is new. Fill your heart like no one could ever do. I just called.
Beloved parents who are celebrating 50 years of dedicated marriage to each other, who have taught my brothers and I love, who have taught my brothers and I commitment, sacrifice, and so many other things we're going to talk about shortly in the speeches after dinner, actually, in speeches my brothers and I have to give. But right now I'll just briefly end this toast with God bless And thank you for everything, Mom and Dad. Happy 50th, please.
Nigdy nie zagaśnie, a kto zdrowia nie wypije, niech się stołem zaśnie.
A kto zdrowia nie wypije, niech się stołem zaśnie.
Na zdrowie!
Dziękujemy, thank you so much. Ladies?
Too hungry.
So as not to disappoint you, you will have your speeches, but it's easier to speak when people's stomachs are full rather than when they're growling.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to have dinner first, and then you'll get indigestion listening to me.
Zdrowie!
Thank you.
Uh-oh, they won't give up.
No excuses. No. Oh my gosh, look at this.
Let me catch her, she goes on. I just threw those out there.
How long have you been in Nashville? Oh, so if you came back, we'd be able to do it.
Especially when the folks are in a community or disarming and getting
Czemu nie siedziałeś z nami? Miałeś przystąpić.
Yusek, the traitor, is supposed to sit with us, but doesn't like our company.
Here's to you and me, so we never disagree. If we do, screw you and here's to me. Yes.
Reverend Father, who had to leave early, dear family, dear friends, and honored guests, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence this evening. And I haven't had any drinks yet, so don't worry. I've been mulling over what I should say for the past month and a half, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And before I go into my respective spiel, there's a couple of serious notes that I have to address. The first one is, 4 weeks ago, my cousin Joe, who lives in Niagara Falls, who I haven't seen in 7 years, called me up and said, "Hey, Kim and I are coming to your anniversary." I said, "Great, Joe, we got a lot of catching up to do." Today they buried Joe. He died, I guess, of a massive heart attack. He had a weak wall on his heart. He was washing his car and he keeled over. So, in memory of Joe, our parents, our grandparents, friends, all the loved ones who we've lost who unfortunately are not here today, I'd like everyone to bow their head for a moment of silence, please, in commemoration of all of our loved ones. You know, you can't condense 50 years into 20 or 30 minutes, so I've kind of tried to pick out some things that seem to be important in my life. And my family's always been there with us forever. Whenever we had dark times, thanks to God, prayer, and family, we managed to survive. But there were two people who have been instrumental the past 50 years. One of them was a gentleman by the name of Jerry Czerwiński, or Jerzy. Jerry was a hell of a guy. He gave me the opportunity to become a state farm agent. He opened the door for me, so to speak. He arranged the interview, coached me how I should approach the interview. When the interview was finished, the manager says, "You're hired." Okay? And became licensed to work for State Farm for the next 47 years till I retired in 2020. Before we were getting married, about a week before, Zdzisia's mom comes to her and kind of politely says, "Is he going to drive that car to the wedding?" Now, that car was a 1965 Mercury, what the heck was it? Montclair, thank you, Roman. It had a sliding back window, but because Henry didn't drive too well, it also had a banged up driver's side rear quarter panel, which my father banged out as best as he could. So I called up Jerry. I said, "Hey, Jerry, do you know anybody who sells cars?" "Henry, no problem." Next day we met at Crest Lincoln Mercury, found a car, and the guy says to Jerry, he says, "You know, he's only been employed for a month." Jerry says, "He's good for it." Boom, I got my car. And the other thing which I have to be thankful to Jerry for is I was always attracted to golf, but you know what? Kids who grew up on the east side of Detroit didn't play golf. We didn't know anybody who, let alone owned a set of clubs, not to mention play. And I took up the sport and I loved it, and I played it for a long time. So Barb, his wife, or his widow, is supposed to be here today. She's not, so I want to keep Jerry in my memory. The second person who also was going to be here today, but because of an emergency was not able to come, is a physician. Some of you know, most of you don't know, that my son, Adam, almost died 5 years ago. And this is not an exaggeration. He was taken to Beaumont, Troy. They couldn't do anything for him. We got a call at 11:30 at night to come to the hospital. They were going to medevac him by helicopter to Royal Oak, Beaumont. Because there they had a machine which basically could sustain both his breathing and his heart. We sat in the hospital frame for about 2:30, 3 o'clock. Finally, the physician came out and said, "We have him stable." Well, for the next 7, 8, 9, 10 days, we go to the hospital. "How's Adam doing?" "He's stable." "Well, what is that?" "He's stable. He's not getting better." So I called up, I can call him a dear friend. He's got a heart of gold, Dr. Harold Greiser. I said, "Harold, Adam's in the hospital. He's really sick." At 10 o'clock at night, straight from his shift at the clinic, Harold came to the hospital. He read Adam's chart. He spoke with the nurses. Next day, Harold calls a friend of his who's an immunologist, who then grad as Harold is, at the Cleveland Clinic. I believe his name is Dr. Ali. Dr. Ali calls Beaumont. He consults with Adam's attending physicians, and they alter his medication. Within 48 hours, our son was getting better. Adam was in the ICU for 45 days. He was on a ventilator for probably 34, 35 days. But with the grace of God, Dr. Ali and Dr. Harold Greiser, he survived. And I truly say this, Harold's parents are here. You tell Harold we love him to death. Now, for the spiel. Thank you. You know, what do you say, or how can you put 50 years in context? I'll give you a little history of myself and Zdzisia. I'll try to keep it brief. There's going to be some nostalgic moments where we're going to refer back to our childhood. But Zdzisia and I are first generation immigrants. We literally came to this country on a boat with our parents. Zdzisia and her family sailed from England. My mother and father sailed from Germany. They came to this country with a suitcase, a couple of dollars in their pocket, and no hotel. They worked hard to try to provide for us. When we were youngsters, Zdzisia lived on the east side of Detroit, if you're familiar with it, Harper Van Dyke area. I lived in an area which no longer exists because General Motors bulldozed it for the Poletown plant. The main cross streets were I-94 and Grand Boulevard. Yet, during our young years, we never met until that fateful day. And that day was October the 25th, 1971. Now you ask yourself, does he have an eidetic memory? Can he remember that? I sure can. It was my birthday. Okay? So at that time I was president of the Polish club, and we're having a meeting, and this foxy young lady walks in. Ooh, who's she? Okay? So I did my song and dance, finished the meeting. I think one of the gals from the Polish club had baked the cake, and she was coming by to say happy birthday. She was going to kiss me on the cheek, but I was quick. I turned around, I got smacked right on the lips. Stole one from her. But little did she know, at that moment, she stole my heart forever. We started dating, and the best summer that I can recall was the summer of 1972. Zdzisia, I, another young man from Wayne State University, applied to the Kościuszko Foundation for a scholarship to study in Poland for 6 weeks. Thanks to the efforts of Dr. Orden, who was chair of the Polish department, we managed to study for another 4 weeks in Warsaw. So here we are at the Jagiellonian University, located in the city of Krakow, or in Polish Kraków. The Jagiellonian University is the second oldest university in Europe. And we just literally fell in love with the city and with the people. We studied literature, grammar, history, took numerous excursions. And when that tour finished, we wound up in Warsaw for 4 weeks at the University of Warsaw, where we pretty much did the same thing. We were able to basically enjoy Polish theater, etc., and just left with a wonderful experience. So basically, October 13th, 1973, we get married, and I'm working for State Farm, but I spent more time at home than I do with my wife. At State Farm. So my manager sits me down in December, says, Henry, your numbers aren't where they're supposed to be. Ah, okay. He says, you better start working, otherwise you're gone. Now, that's a true story. So I basically said, you know what? I've got nothing to fall back on. I better start doing this. And I put my behind in gear, and I worked, and did it for 47 years until I retired October of 2020. Zdzisława, you may not know, was a very promising actress. She still has a beautiful voice, and she sings in 2 choirs. But she gave up her acting career to be a stay-at-home mom. She gave birth to 4 sons within a matter of 9 years. So there was a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, an 8-year-old, and an 11-year-old in tow as she was shopping. Who's working harder, she or I? Right? I'm going to harken back to some nostalgia. And there's a reason for this, and you'll hear my summation. I think we lived in the best of all times when we were youngsters. Believe it or not, the city of Detroit was very beautiful in the 50s and the 60s. I would ask people a trick question. I'd say, okay, you're from Detroit, right? Yeah. I said, what's the difference between a white neighborhood and a black neighborhood in 1954? Scratching and thinking. I don't know. I said, there was none. You know what? Everybody exhibited pride of ownership. In our neighborhood, people were out there sweeping the streets. They cut that little patch of grass where it was neat and trim. This is what we grew up in. And some of the finest moments I can are very simplistic pleasures. You go to the corner store. This was before the supermarket. So in most neighborhoods, in the older neighborhoods, there was literally a store at every corner. And you bought your milk and eggs and produce there. If you had 25 cents in your pocket, you could go to the store. And for 10 cents, you got a 12-ounce pop. For 12 cents, it was 16 ounces. And you got a 2-ounce bag of chips. Life doesn't get any better. You ate the chips and drank the pop on the steps and nearby. Then you took the bottle back and they gave you 2 cents and you bought penny candy. Couldn't have been any better, right? One of the things that I remember very, very vividly from my childhood is the quality of television. You know, back then, they had an ethics code where if you looked at the series, the husband and wife never slept in the same night. They all had separate and I think one other one. In each of those series, the father was a professional. He went to work in a suit. He had a briefcase. He worked in an office. He played golf. That was the American dream. We, on the east side, didn't play golf. My father, because of the war, had no choice. He had to work in a factory. But watching those shows, believe it or not, inspired me. I wanted to be that guy with the briefcase, with the suit, with the car. And by the way, they all lived in 2-story colonials, right? And that's what sort of inspired me in life. And with the grace of God and State Farm, we were able to achieve that. And by achieving that, we tried to give our children things we never had. I'm sorry, but we never went out to eat in a restaurant. That was too expensive. We ate at home. First time I think I went to a restaurant, I was 17 years old, and it was a class trip from Orchard Lake St. Mary's. So maybe we spoiled our kids. I don't know, you have to ask them, but we tried to give them things we didn't have. They golfed, they learned how to ski, they swam. Zdzisia was very, very adamant about them playing piano, and they were all excellent pianists because they got a chance to go to the Interlochen Summer Academy and play, which is quite an honor. Also, Zdzisława, for many years, was the choreographer of the Strauss Ball. You saw pictures out in the lobby. Those are pictures from one of the Strauss Balls where all 4 of our sons took part. Again, picture with my mom and dad, and Zdzisia's mom and dad. We were fortunate, and this is not to be braggadocious because I'll wrap this up. We had a chance to see Arthur Rubinstein play the piano, one of the most famous pianists of the 20th century. We saw Luciano Pavarotti twice. It was heaven. We got to live the American dream, okay? And in summation, I'll tell you this. Zdzisia, can you come up here for a second, please?
I'm mesmerized by this speech.
Thank you. I'm sure there are baseball fans here, right? And I always loved history. I read sports history from cover to cover. And if you know anything about baseball, you know that the teams the Yankees fielded in the 20s and 30s were some of the greatest teams that were ever played. The main cop, Gibson, you can come here. Gibson, come on.
This is my grandson.
Come on. You can stay next to Bob Joe while we speak. And if you know anything about the Yankees back then, the big draw was Babe Ruth, right? He literally saved baseball from demise with his home run hitting. But there was another man on that team, somebody who was quiet, didn't seek attention, went about his business and went home to his wife. That man was Lou Gehrig. Lou Gehrig was probably just as good, if not better, a ball player. In 1939, Lou Gehrig was handed a very cruel fate. He became sick with a disease we know today as ALS. They call it Lou Gehrig's disease. And on April 30th of 1939, he stopped playing. At that time, he had the record of having played 2,130 consecutive games. And he played with broken fingers, sprained ankles. He didn't cry. He went and did his job. So on the 4th of July, 1939, they had a commemoration celebrating Lou Gehrig. And you'd think that he would have been bitter, right? This terrible fate befell him. And his opening words is, "I am the luckiest man on the face of the earth." And I can truly say that to my wife because through all the good times, through all the bad, I love you forever. Thank you. And I will turn now, I hope I haven't given you indigestion, and I will turn the microphone over to my oldest son, Adam.
I have to follow that now.
I tried, son.
I wrote my words down so I wouldn't forget them. So, good evening, everyone. I'll be addressing everyone in English tonight because please forgive the fact that my Polish has decayed over the years since I spoke it as my first language growing up. Sorry if I only learned English, in fact, at the age of 3, and I went into preschool because at the time my parents only spoke Polish in the house. They tried to give us boys the gift of Polish language mastery by enrolling us in Polish school when we were very young. But given all the other activities we were involved in because of their parental support, Polish school was the one area we were, I think, allowed to slacken. Our parents did give us many gifts in our youth. We were well taken care of. Our father worked hard and provided, and never to this day can I say that I've ever seen him splurge on himself. It's always been for the family, everything he has ever done. He gives out of principle. He does not ask for anything in return. That should be appreciated nonetheless, because it is right to do so. And I hope in some small way this 50th wedding anniversary party shows his son's collective appreciation for his father. In addition, Dad always stressed academic achievement. He was a healthy supporter of whatever other challenges we took on from our youngest days into our adolescence. Whether it was soccer, debate, swimming, or football, he and my mother supported our involvement in many activities, giving us a rich upbringing in more ways than money could ever buy. My mother's main contribution, I'll have to say, to this list of parental bounty was music. Her words as we were raised were that should any one of us quit playing the piano, it would break her heart. So, of course, none of us quit. And were we tempted to, Dad ensured that possibility went quickly out the door. There was no quitting in our household. And that, strangely enough, is another gift that I can credit to my mother. She taught us all to never give up. Life as we matured and grew from boys into men caused our independence, fostered in such an achieving environment to take us in different directions, and helped us to form our own opinions. We all learned to forge our own paths in life. One thing that remains, however, despite it all, is that we are family. That will always be, and nothing can ever erase that. That sense of an eternal bond and of the independence we learned also made us into something else, good Americans. The sense of family instilled within us a sense of duty and a sense of honor. Happy 50th, Mom and Dad. Another deep thank you to all of you who have elected so graciously to devote your evening to celebrating with us tonight. Thank you. I now pass the finale on to Conrad.
Certainly not least, just would like to say a few words about my folks tonight. Thank you again to everyone for coming tonight to celebrate my parents, Henry and Zdzisia Gumul's 50th wedding anniversary. And a very special thank you to our family and friends who have traveled from out of state to be here with us this evening. Along with everything my brother Adam spoke about, I just want to say a few things about how fortunate and grateful my brothers and I are to have parents like you, Mom and Dad, and to sing your praises for a moment while I have the stage. Excuse me. My mother and father raised my brothers and I to live life with integrity, humility, kindness, and respect. We were raised to be trustworthy and reliable, to be good-natured, and to show compassion towards others. We were raised with strong work ethic and to take pride in everything that we do. And most importantly, we were raised with a strong sense of faith to help guide us throughout life's journeys. We are very fortunate to have grown up with parents like you, parents that have showered us with unconditional love and support, parents that have lived by the very principles they worked so hard to instill in us, parents that have made sacrifices without question throughout their lives so that their children could have more than they ever did. Life has its obstacles, trials, and tribulations, but always knowing that we've had such loving and supporting parents like yourselves has given us every opportunity to persevere, to overcome, and accomplish anything we've ever set forth to do in life. Thank you, Mom and Dad, very, very much, and we love you very, very much. We are here tonight celebrating your 50 years of marriage, your commitment to one another, to your family, and to your faith. And we are celebrating you and the good people that you are, and the love that we all share as a family and good friends. So I'd like us all to raise our glasses in honor of my mother and father's happy 50th anniversary. Mom and Dad, here's to another 100. Na zdrowia and 100 lat. 100 lat, 100 lat, nie żyje, żyje nam. 100 lat, 100 lat, nie żyją, żyją nam. Jeszcze raz, nie żyją, żyją nam. Nie żyją nam. Congratulations, Mom and Dad, I love you.
I have known Henry for 60 years. We went to high school together at Orchard Lake, started in '63, So that's the 60 years. Those 4 years together, we came in as young boys, starting with 73 on the night we registered and graduated with 42. So attrition took a lot of kids out of high school for various reasons. But those 4 years brought us together. Some of us hated it. I ran away, came back, and I hated to leave in my 4th year. But I remember our class trips, and in 63, we would go to Detroit. Bus would fill with a class trip, and we'd go down to Detroit. We went to United Artists Theater, and Goldfinger was playing. When we went in and saw it, and the first thing up on the screen was Honor Blackhorn, I think was her name, and her name was Pussy Galore. We were in shock at Orchard Lake. We came out of there with a new perspective on movies. But Henry and I have been friends for a long time. We lost contact after high school, came back together, and with him and other friends here, we've been a bond for a lot of years, at least 40 years we've been together. We go out and we golf, we go to dinner, we do various things and go to shows. But I thank Henry for being such a good friend, and he's helped me a lot, and I hope I've helped him and others that have been here. So thank you, congratulations, Henry and Zdzisia.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you so much. We have Mr. Gruber's a friend of ours, and he has a love-hate story about the Gumul family. So all of you interested, perk up and listen. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thanks for the great intro here. As mentioned, my name is Robert Gruber, and I used to be and still am the president of the ski club of the Austrian Society. And as such, the ski club every year organizes a golf outing. And that's where the love-hate story comes in, the Gumul family, unfortunately. And maybe a hate story, maybe not fitting for this event, but here's the story anyways. So we make our golf outings, and year after year after year, must have been for a good decade plus, Mr. Gumul and his boys, the college golf players, you know, so they show up. And we're really graciously thankful that they always played along, because, you know, it's great to have additional teams, and in particular the Gumers, because the boys, including Henry, to me, they are like professional players. And so that's where the admiration comes in, because they played so greatly and they always scored so good, but there's a hate component to it. Because their winnings were always like a good dozen points or more ahead of the rest of us, you know. And so this is where we got like, the Gumers are here again, they are gonna win again. Lo and behold, they did. But in summary, I have to say it was the greatest time, really beautiful to have you, Henry, and your sons, and even your wife was there too as well at times. So we had great times at this golf outing, and that's a very fond memory which we'll keep in our hearts as the golf club of the, or the ski club rather, of the Austrian Society. Thank you very much. You like the golf story better, the golf club? Yeah. If anybody is interested in skiing, by the way, check the Austrian website, Austrian Society of Detroit. We are doing some ski trip again in end of February or beginning of March of next year. And yes, we play golf again, so self-serving announcement, but enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you very much.
Yeah.